Right now, you are lying in a room. You feel the steady weight of atmospheric pressure pushing against your skin, implicitly trusting that the oxygen molecules filling your lungs will behave exactly as they did 1 second ago. You trust the geometry of the four walls around you. You believe that the distance between your eyes and the ceiling is a fixed, immutable fact of nature. Your nervous system is operating under the incredibly comfortable assumption that the physical forces holding your body together are absolute. You have built your entire sanity on the idea that physics is a uniform, indestructible architecture, a set of universal laws that apply everywhere, all the time. It is not. We have always been taught that if you zoom out far enough, the universe is smooth, even, and predictable. But recent observations of deep space have revealed a physical scar on the sky. Astronomers have mapped a geometric structure so massive, the foundational mathematics of cosmology strictly forbid it to exist. The equations that govern reality dictate a hard, inescapable limit on how large any formation in the cosmos can grow. This anomaly shatters that limit completely. It proves that the universe is not a perfectly calibrated, uniform machine. It is a chaotic, asymmetrical storm. The existence of this anomaly means your immediate environment is a fragile lie. If the fabric of space can twist into forbidden, impossible shapes out there, then the mathematical bedrock of our reality is not an eternal guarantee. It is just local weather. You are trapped in a localized, accidental bubble of calm climate. When you look out the window and see a quiet night, you are not seeing the true face of reality. You are seeing a temporary lull. You are standing in the eye of a cosmic hurricane that spans billions of years, entirely oblivious to the fact that the eye is moving. If the cosmic wind shifts even by a fraction of a percent, the physical laws governing our solar system will simply rewrite themselves. The math broke, and there is nowhere to hide. In the journey ahead, we will descend into a spiral. We will start by tearing apart the weather map of the universe, exposing the impossible currents waiting in the dark. Then, we will enter the absolute blindness of the biological fallout shelter that you call a human body. And finally, at the bottom of the spiral, we will prove that your consciousness, your memories, and your existence right now are nothing more than a random, meaningless glitch of local temperature. For a century, the entire architecture of modern physics has rested on a single, silent assumption: the cosmological principle. It dictates that if you zoom out far enough, the universe is perfectly smooth, even, and predictable. Imagine standing on a beach. The water at your feet is chaotic, churning with sand, foam, and violent currents. But if you take a satellite into low Earth orbit and look down at the Pacific Ocean, the chaos disappears. The water becomes a perfectly flat, featureless expanse of blue. This is exactly how physicists viewed the cosmos. At the local scale, galaxies collide, black holes tear stars apart, and cosmic radiation sterilizes planets. But scale up to hundreds of millions of light years, and the violence blurs into a static hum. The temperature normalizes, the density evens out, the universe becomes a calm, flat ocean. In 2013, the European Space Agency decided to map this thermodynamic weather. They released the data from the Planck satellite, a machine designed to capture the cosmic microwave background. This is the afterglow of the Big Bang, the oldest light in existence, effectively serving as the ultimate weather map of the universe. When the data was compiled, it was heralded as one of the greatest triumphs in human history. The map was flawless. It showed that the ambient temperature of the cosmos was a frigid -270 degrees Celsius, identical in every single direction, down to a fraction of a decimal point. Think about the sheer, overwhelming majesty of that achievement. We, a species of primates bound to a tiny rock, managed to measure the thermal breadth of the entire universe and found absolute harmony. It is a profoundly beautiful realization. The void is not a malicious, unpredictable monster. It is a well-behaved, balanced machine. This mathematical smoothness is the ultimate safety net. It is the invisible scaffolding that guarantees the physical laws governing the electrons in your brain and the gravity in your room are universal constants. Because the universe is uniform on a macro scale, the rules do not change. The speed of light is a universal constant, not a localized speed limit. The weak nuclear force, governing the radioactive decay in your own bones, behaves identically here, as it does 10 billion light-years away. You are sailing on a tranquil sea. The weather is stable. But mathematics is a cruel master. It does not just describe reality, it strictly dictates what is forbidden. Physicists love boundaries. A boundary means the system is closed, calculable, and safe. If the universe is as perfectly mixed as the Planck satellite claimed, then gravity can only pull so much matter together before the expansion of space tears it apart. There is a strict thermodynamic speed limit to how large a structure can grow. In cosmology, this threshold is known as the end of greatness. It is the exact scale at which the chaotic, violent structures of the universe finally dissolve into a smooth, featureless background. Think of it as the ultimate ceiling of reality. In 2010, cosmologists, including Jaswant Yadav, calculated the absolute mathematical limit for any structure in the cosmos. The number they arrived at was 1.2 billion light-years. 1.2 billion light-years is not an estimation. It is a thermodynamic cage. It is a strict temporal boundary tied directly to the age of the universe. Nothing can exceed this size. No cluster of galaxies, no wall of matter, no cosmic storm. If a structure exceeds this limit, it implies that gravity has not had enough time since the Big Bang to pull that much matter together. It violates causality. It breaks the sequence of time. It would be like finding a towering, fully grown redwood tree that is mathematically proven to be only 5 minutes old. The physics simply do not allow it. When cosmologists calculated this limit, they did not just write it down and move on. They built billion-dollar observatories to confirm it. They ran simulations requiring months of supercomputer processing power. Every single simulation agreed. Gravity is simply too weak, and the expansion of the universe is too fast for anything larger to coalesce. Like pouring a heavy drop of dark ink into a turbulent pool, the structure might hold for a microsecond, but the currents immediately tear it apart until the water is uniform again. The 1.2 billion light-year limit is the exact coordinate where the ink is mathematically guaranteed to dissolve. The universe possesses an automatic, built-in mechanism to prevent impossible structures from forming. It is an error-correcting code. For over a decade, scientists rested easily. The limit was considered an impenetrable iron wall. The cosmological models were locked in, the textbooks were printed. We assumed we were looking at the entire ocean. We assumed the deep water was just as calm as the surface. To grasp the sheer magnitude of this cosmic arrogance, you have to look at the mathematical bedrock of everything we know. It is called the FLRW metric Friedman, Lemaitre, Robertson, Walker. It is not just an equation on a chalkboard. It is the operating system of reality. Albert Einstein needed the universe to make sense, so cosmologists invented a simplification. They modeled the cosmos as a perfect fluid at large scales. The FLRW metric demands, absolutely requires, that the universe is perfectly homogeneous and isotropic. It must look exactly the same everywhere, in every direction, without exception. Every single physical truth you were taught in school is a parasite feeding on this specific metric. The calculation that the universe is 13.8 billion years old It relies on FLRW, the existence of dark matter holding galaxies together. It assumes FLRW is true, the acceleration of dark energy stretching the void. It is mathematically derived from FLRW. If the universe is not perfectly smooth, if this metric is even slightly wrong, then it is not just a minor correction. It means the entire history of the cosmos is a hallucination. It means every textbook printed in the last century is essentially a work of fiction. You might instinctively dismiss this. You sit in your room, listening to the hum of your electronics, feeling the solid wood of your desk, and you assume that the macrostructure of the universe is completely disconnected from the microstructure of your life. You assume that cosmological parameters are just academic problems, polite disagreements between people in white coats. But physics does not tolerate isolation. It is a tightly woven, inescapable net. The physical forces holding your body together, the electromagnetism keeping your skin from dissolving, the gravity pinning you to the mattress, the strong nuclear force keeping your atoms from detonating, are all calibrated against the background geometry of the universe. If the expansion of space and the behavior of gravity are fundamentally misunderstood at the macro scale, the bedrock of your local reality crumbles. We desperately needed the universe to be smooth, because a smooth universe is the only thing that guarantees the laws of physics in your bedroom are stable, permanent, and safe. The Planck satellite gave us that guarantee. It provided a pristine, high-definition map of the cosmic microwave background, proving the void was identical everywhere, down to 1 part in 100,000. The 1.2 billion light-year limit was seemingly verified by the data. It was the ultimate mechanism of control, a perfect, airtight confirmation that we understood the exact dimensions of our cage. That mathematical perfection was a brilliant, elegant defense mechanism for the human mind. We built a fortress out of data to convince ourselves we were safe. The problem is, the universe is under no obligation to respect our desire for elegance. The flawless weather map that kept the sanity of physics intact was not a reflection of universal truth. It was merely a symptom of our own low-resolution vision. We were measuring the ocean with instruments that could only detect the ripples on the surface, completely, hopelessly blind to the massive, silent currents moving underneath the dark water. That blindfold stayed firmly in place for exactly 1 century. In January 2024, the shield finally shattered. It did not happen with a loud explosion. It happened in the quiet, sterile glow of computer monitors at the American Astronomical Society meeting. Astronomers led by Lopez had focused their instruments on a specific, distant region of deep space. They were tracking the ancient light of quasars, using them like lighthouses to illuminate the unseen matter hidden in the void. As the data rendered on their screens, the silence in the room must have been deafening. They were not looking at a smooth, featureless ocean. They were looking at a physical scar on the sky. Hanging in the dark was a perfect, unbroken, geometric circle of galaxies. It was a structure that simply defied the foundational equations of gravity. The scientists checked the calibration. They filtered the noise. They looked for the error. But the data was cold, hard, and indifferent to their panic. The structure was undeniably real. The end of greatness, the 2 billion light-year ceiling that anchored the stability of modern physics, was mathematically annihilated in an instant. The universe was not a well-behaved machine. It was a chaotic, asymmetrical storm, capable of twisting space into forbidden, impossible shapes. It was 1.3 billion light-years across. The thermodynamic cage was broken. The map is dead, and we are blind. How do you prove a physical impossibility exists? You do not just look through a glass lens and spot a blurry shape in the dark. Lopez and her team conducted a medical X-ray on deep space. Using the blinding radiation of distant, ultra-luminous quasars as a backlight, They analyzed the light as it pierced the cold, invisible gas surrounding those galaxies. The gas absorbed specific wavelengths, leaving behind an undeniable chemical fingerprint: ionized magnesium. When they mapped those magnesium fingerprints across the void, the silhouette materialized. A perfect geometric anomaly, constructed entirely from gravity and heavy metal. The math broke. Not slightly, broken. We established that the absolute, inescapable size limit for anything in this universe is 1.2 billion light-years. That is the threshold where the cosmic ocean is mathematically mandated to smooth out. The Big Ring is 1.3 billion. It does not just cross the line, it obliterates it. If human eyes were sensitive enough to perceive the faint light of this structure from Earth, it would take up a space in the night sky 15 times larger than the full moon. It is a monolith hanging in the dark, and according to the laws of physics that keep your body intact, it is strictly forbidden to exist. This is not an error in the equipment. Lopez and her team did not just look through a telescope lens and see a blurry circle. They used the light of distant, ultra-luminous quasars as a backlight. Think of it like taking a medical X-ray of the deep universe. As the blinding light from those quasars traveled toward Earth, it passed through the cold, invisible gas surrounding the galaxies in the ring. The gas absorbed specific wavelengths of that light, leaving a chemical fingerprint, specifically ionized magnesium. When they mapped those magnesium fingerprints, the silhouette of the monster appeared, a perfect geometric anomaly, a physical scar of heavy metal and gravity spanning a distance so vast that light itself takes over 1 billion years just to cross from one side to the other. You look up at the night sky and assume it is a quiet, empty canopy. You assume the void is peaceful and uniform. You are wrong. You are looking at a turbulent, chaotic atmosphere where massive, impossible storms are brewing. The Big Ring is a Category 5 cosmic hurricane frozen in the dark. It is a region of space where gravity has pulled together a mass so staggering that the standard model of cosmology cannot explain how it had enough time to form. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. That sounds like an eternity, but it is a severe, ticking clock. It is simply not enough time to build this. The violent currents of expanding space should have torn these galaxies apart before they ever managed to form a ring. Yet, it is right there. And it is not just the sheer, crushing size that is terrifying. It is the shape. In a supposedly random, chaotic distribution of matter, perfect geometry is a physical anomaly. When you see a perfect circle of galaxies spanning billions of light years, you are not looking at a statistical coincidence. You are looking at the result of localized, overwhelming forces. You are looking at an extreme high-pressure system in the cosmic weather, forcing matter into a shape that shouldn't be stable. Imagine looking at a satellite map of the Earth and seeing a hurricane the size of the entire Pacific Ocean, remaining perfectly circular, completely ignoring the rotation of the planet, the temperature of the water, and the laws of aerodynamics. That is what the Big Ring is doing to the universe. It is ignoring the rules. It is operating under its own localized physical climate. This means the fundamental rulebook of reality is missing pages. The equations that scientists use to predict the behavior of stars, the expansion of the void, and the nuclear fusion in our own sun are based on a model that explicitly says the Big Ring cannot be there. But the magnesium signature is a physical measurement. The universe is not a perfectly calibrated, universal machine. It is a chaotic weather system, and we just found a storm that violates the laws of thermodynamics. But mathematics leaves no room for coincidence, and the brutal truth is, this storm does not stay out there in the deep dark. When looking at this discovery, the mind builds a firewall. It treats a localized anomaly 9.2 billion light-years away as a tragedy of distance, entirely disconnected from the cup of water on the nightstand or the rhythmic beating of your heart. You feel insulated by the sheer, crushing scale of the void. The natural defensive mechanism is to assume that whatever broken physics created that monster out there has nothing to do with the safety of your bedroom. But that is a fundamental misunderstanding of what physical laws are. Physics is not a collection of independent suggestions. It is a tightly woven fabric. Geometry is the exact mold into which reality is poured. When the geometry of the universe shatters at the macro scale, the laws that operate inside that geometry bleed out with it. You cannot have a localized region where gravity and the expansion of space forge a structure that the math says is impossible, and still believe that the math is universally true everywhere else. If the rules can bend out there, it means the laws of physics are not universal laws at all. They are environmental conditions. They are local weather. Focus on the physical space of our solar system. The physics governing this exact coordinate, the electromagnetic force holding planetary matter together, the nuclear fusion burning inside the sun, the gravitational pull anchoring the Earth, these are not eternal decrees carved into the foundation of reality. They are just the current temporary atmospheric pressure of our specific cosmic neighborhood. You are not standing on a solid, unchangeable floor. You are floating in a temporary region of calm climate. We have built our entire civilization, our biology, and our sanity on the arrogant assumption that the climate of Earth's local space will never change. We assumed that water will always boil at the same point, that the sun will always burn at the same rate, and that the electrons in your nervous system will always fire with the exact same voltage. But the Big Ring is a glaring 1.3 billion light-year proof that the universe possesses massive, localized pressure systems that we cannot predict and do not understand. It proves that the void is not a still pond. It is an ocean with violent, hidden currents and rogue storms. And think about what happens in any weather system. A high-pressure zone does not stay isolated forever. The atmosphere constantly tries to balance itself. Storms move, currents shift. If the universe is a weather system, then the climate around us can change. A cosmic front of different physical properties could sweep over our galaxy. And if the laws of physics shift by even a fraction of a percent as that weather front passes, the delicate biological machinery keeping you alive will not just fail, it will violently tear itself apart. You are a creature perfectly, blindly adapted to a very specific set of cosmic weather conditions. You are surviving solely because the storm hasn't hit your coordinates yet. You might try to dismiss this. You might try to rationalize the Big Ring as a one-off error, a freak accident of gas and dust that just happens to look like a circle, a single bizarre cloud in an otherwise quiet sky. That is the first defensive mechanism of a terrified mind. But science does not allow you that comfort. Because the Big Ring is not a lonely anomaly, right next to it, in the exact same neighborhood of the cosmos, sits another structure discovered 2 years prior, the Giant Arc, spanning 3.3 billion light-years. Two impossible storms, sitting side by side, mocking the equations that keep you safe. If physics is just local weather, the next question is terrifying. It means reality is geographical. It means the coordinates matter. So, what exactly is happening to the physical constants at the coordinates we are sitting in right now? You believe the foundation of your biological bunker is secure. You assume that even if your sensory organs are actively lying to you, and even if your consciousness is trapped 80 milliseconds in the past, the physical coordinates of the Earth itself are anchored to a stable, unmoving bedrock. You feel the stillness of the floor beneath your feet. You trust that the Milky Way is drifting peacefully through a quiet, predictable sector of the void. It is not. 1,400 entire galaxy clusters are currently being dragged across the universe in a single, unified direction at a speed of 2 million miles per hour. In 2008, astrophysicist Alexander Kashlinsky and his team at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center isolated a terrifying anomaly in the deepest layers of space. They were tracking the movement of massive galaxy clusters, expecting to see them drifting randomly, pushed outward by the standard, uniform expansion of the universe. Instead, they found a river, a massive, localized, violent current of matter tearing through the cosmos, ignoring the standard laws of expansion entirely. They named it the dark flow. To understand the sheer crushing scale of this anomaly, you must realize what a galaxy cluster is. It is not a handful of stars. A single cluster contains thousands of galaxies, bound together by halos of superheated gas and dark matter. Kashlinsky's data showed 1,400 of these colossal structures moving together, exactly like a single, solid sheet of ice sliding across the ocean floor. This is not a gentle, cosmic drift. 2 million miles per hour is a speed so violent, it permanently strips away the illusion of a static universe. And the Milky Way is caught dead in the center of it. You are not sitting in a stationary room. Your biological shelter is completely untethered, floating helplessly on a torrential cosmic ocean current, being pulled into the dark. But a river does not flow without a cause. Water moves because physical pressure demands it. It flows from a high-pressure gradient to a low-pressure gradient. If 1,400 galaxy clusters are rushing in one specific direction, there must be a monstrous gravitational anomaly pulling them. Kashlinsky's team tracked the trajectory of the dark flow, calculating the exact angle of the current to find the source of the pull. They traced the current to a coordinate located entirely outside the observable universe. The mass pulling our galaxy is so staggeringly huge that it exerts a physical, gravitational force across billions of light years, yet it sits perfectly beyond the horizon of what light is mathematically allowed to reach. We are being dragged into a blind spot by a ghost. A colossal, unseen weight in the cosmic weather system is hauling your coordinates toward an unknown physical climate. But being pulled is only half of the horror. In 2017, another team of astrophysicists, led by Yehuda Hoffman, mapped the three-dimensional velocity of galaxies in our local universe. They were looking for the other end of this thermodynamic engine. They discovered that we are not just being dragged by an invisible mass in front of us. We are being actively, violently expelled by what is behind us. Hoffman discovered an incredibly vast, barren region of space directly behind the Milky Way. It is entirely devoid of matter. There are no stars, no galaxies, and almost no dark matter. It is an abyssal, empty void spanning hundreds of millions of light years. But in the brutal physics of cosmology, a massive void does not just sit still. The absolute absence of gravity creates a repulsive physical force. Because the regions around the void are packed with matter, the empty space actively acts as a high-pressure zone, violently pushing everything away from its center. They named this terrifying region the dipole repeller. A Category 5 hurricane on Earth requires a high-pressure zone and a low-pressure zone to generate its catastrophic, tearing winds. The universe operates on the exact same thermodynamic brutality. The dipole repeller is a cosmic high-pressure void, violently pushing the Milky Way out of its territory. The unobservable mass at the end of the dark flow is a low-pressure sink, violently sucking us in. Your fragile, blind, biological bunker is caught perfectly between the two. You are being shot out of a thermodynamic cannon. When you sit in your room, you feel absolute stillness. The dust motes hang suspended in the quiet air. Your biological senses measure the steady, calm ticking of the seconds. But this stillness is the ultimate, fatal deception of your localized environment. You are sealed inside a windowless capsule that is being violently swept down a lightless, roaring river. Because your mattress, your ceiling, and the blood inside your veins are all moving at the exact same terrifying velocity of 2 million miles per hour, your 20-watt brain registers zero acceleration. It paints a picture of a house built on solid rock, completely hiding the fact that the rock is in freefall. The universe is not expanding peacefully. It is tearing itself apart through violent pressure differentials. The dipole repeller is an absolute void of nothingness, and that nothingness is acting like a physical wall of wind, crushing against the back of our galaxy, accelerating us forward. And waiting at the front is a mass so impossibly heavy it breaks the boundary of the observable universe. You are trapped in the middle of a cosmic vice grip, being squeezed out into the dark. And this is where the geography of physics becomes a biological death sentence. If the laws of physics are not a universal constitution, but rather a temporary weather forecast determined by your exact coordinates in the void, then movement is the ultimate threat. If the universe possesses a physical axis, a climate gradient where the electromagnetic tension is radically different from one end to the other, then being dragged at 2 million miles per hour across that gradient is catastrophic. If the Milky Way was safely anchored in place, your biological shelter might survive in its temperate little lagoon indefinitely. But the dark flow guarantees that we are not anchored. We are being hauled across the cosmic map against our will. With every single heartbeat, this thermodynamic engine blasts your physical body over 5,000 miles deeper into unknown physical territory. We are actively, relentlessly crossing the gradient. We do not know what the weather looks like at the coordinates the dark flow is dragging us toward. But mathematically, the temperate zone cannot stretch infinitely. The Earth is hurtling blindfolded toward a cosmic weather front, a boundary line in the dark where the atmospheric pressure of reality fundamentally shifts, a coordinate where the fine structure constant drops or the weak nuclear force violently spikes. When our solar system finally drifts across that invisible border, there will be no warning. Your broken biological barometer will not twitch. The heavy walls of your sensory fallout shelter will not rattle in the wind. The illusion of the quiet room will not slowly fade to black. It will simply be swallowed by the unseen mass, pulling us from beyond the observable horizon. You are not a traveler navigating the universe. You are biological debris caught in a cosmic riptide, being violently flushed out of the safe, lit zones of reality and dragged into a thermodynamic blind spot. The current has already taken you, and the anchor is gone. You are not a traveler navigating the universe. You are biological debris caught in a cosmic riptide. The current is pulling you into the dark, and the anchor is already gone. When confronted with massive, impossible structures in deep space, the human mind builds a firewall. You isolate the anomaly. You tell yourself that even if the geometry of the universe is torn apart out there, the physical rules operating inside those shapes remain exactly the same. You rationalize that a storm is just a storm. It might twist clouds of dust into massive rings or giant arcs, but the rain is still water. The wind is still air. You believe that a proton out there in the deep dark is absolutely identical to a proton circulating in your blood. You believe that the speed of light, the mass of an electron, and the strength of a magnetic field are absolute, unchanging numbers, woven into the very fabric of reality. In physics, these are called the fundamental constants. They are the bedrock of human sanity. We assume that the universe operates on a single, unbreakable source code. If the universe is a weather system, you believe that while the cosmic wind might blow with different intensities in different places, the molecular structure of the air itself never mutates. A constant is supposed to be constant. It is the guarantee that the physics keeping you alive today will not suddenly fail tomorrow. But the air itself is mutating. In 2020, a team led by astrophysicist John Webb published a monumental devastating study in the journal Science Advances. They did not look for giant shapes or swirling galaxies. They spent over 2 decades measuring something entirely invisible, the fine structure constant. In the language of quantum mechanics, this constant is denoted by the Greek letter alpha. You do not need a degree in theoretical physics to understand the sheer terror of alpha. You just need to know that it is the absolute, unquestioned dictator of the electromagnetic force. Alpha determines exactly how tightly electrons orbit the nucleus of an atom. It is the precise, invisible tension holding the table you are leaning on from passing right through your skin. It is the exact mathematical value that allows carbon atoms to bond together to form the water you drink, the proteins in your muscles, and the DNA strands in your cells. According to every physics textbook printed in the last century, alpha is exactly the same everywhere at all times. From the explosive birth of the Big Bang to the present day, from the quiet corner of your bedroom to the edge of the observable void, it is a locked number, roughly 1/137. For a century, this number was considered a sacred artifact of mathematics. Some of the greatest minds in human history, like Richard Feynman and Wolfgang Pauli, were absolutely obsessed with it. Feynman called it a magic number that comes to us with no understanding by man, suggesting that the hand of God wrote that number. It is flawlessly elegant. It is the invisible shield that ensures the universe is not a sterile, dead void. We trusted that elegance. We believed that because this number was so beautiful, it was an immortal law protecting us. But mathematics does not care about our need for elegance. It has to be 1/137. If alpha is a tiny bit smaller, the electromagnetic force weakens. Solid matter loses its grip. If alpha is a tiny bit larger, the electromagnetic force overpowers everything else. Stars cannot ignite. The nuclear fusion that creates carbon and oxygen ceases to exist. Biology becomes physically impossible. Webb and his team wanted to prove this universality. They used the Very Large Telescope in the deserts of Chile and the Keck Observatory near the summit of Mauna Kea in Hawaii to peer deep into the history of the cosmos. They used the blinding light from ancient quasars as a cosmic backlight. As this light traveled for billions of years across the universe, it passed through ancient, invisible clouds of gas. When the light passed through those clouds, the gas absorbed specific wavelengths, leaving a chemical fingerprint. By examining those fingerprints, Webb's team could measure the exact, precise signature of the electromagnetic force at those distant coordinates. If physics is a universal law, the value of alpha in a gas cloud 10 billion light-years away should perfectly, flawlessly match the value of alpha measured in a sterile laboratory on Earth. It didn't. The number shifted. At first, the scientific community reacted with fierce, almost desperate denial. That is what always happens when the foundation of reality cracks. They assumed the telescope lenses were warped by minute temperature changes in the observatories. They assumed the data processing algorithms had a blind spot. They assumed it was a statistical fluke, a rounding error, generated by the sheer distance of the light. When the math breaks, the human mind strongly prefers to blame the hammer rather than the stone. So, they checked again. They spent years ruling out every possible terrestrial error. They recalibrated the sensors. They cross-referenced data from different hemispheres of the Earth, looking in completely different directions of the cosmos. They tried everything in their power to prove their own data wrong, to put the genie back in the bottle and restore the fundamental constants to their rightful place. They failed. The anomaly did not disappear. It did something much worse. It organized itself. What Webb's exhaustive data mapped out was not a random scattering of instrumental errors or dusty interference. It was a clear, undeniable, and terrifyingly precise gradient. When the telescopes looked deep into one specific direction of the cosmos, the electromagnetic force was measurably, mathematically stronger. When they turned the lenses to look in the exact opposite direction, the force was measurably weaker. Think about the sheer, crushing terror of that geometry. It means the universe does not have a uniform backdrop of rules. It has a physical axis. It possesses a north and a south pole, but these are not magnetic poles on a floating piece of rock. They are the absolute poles of physical laws. It is a climate gradient of reality itself. If the electromagnetic force has a gradient, it means physics is strictly and brutally geographical. If you were to board a ship and travel far enough in one direction across this cosmic ocean, the fundamental laws of chemistry would literally stop working. You would eventually cross a physical border where the electromagnetic tension holding atoms together becomes too tight. Stars cannot ignite under that pressure. Complex molecules snap. If you travel in the exact opposite direction, the tension becomes too loose. Solid matter cannot hold its shape, dissolving into a lukewarm, radioactive soup of isolated particles. This is not a philosophical thought experiment. This is a physical measurement extracted from the oldest light in existence. The cosmos is not a single, flawlessly engineered machine operating on one universal blueprint. It is a vast, violently divided ecosystem with entirely different physical climate zones. A massive climate gradient does not just sit peacefully in the dark. It produces extreme weather. There are impossible structures hanging in the deep void. A perfect ring of galaxies 1.3 billion light-years across. A giant arc stretching over 3 billion light-years. For years, astronomers stared at these monoliths, paralyzed, unable to explain how gravity could possibly forge them in a uniform, flat universe. The reason is terrifyingly simple. The universe is not uniform. These massive, forbidden shapes are not random accidents of gas and dust. They are the cosmic equivalent of super hurricanes. They form exactly at the chaotic intersections where a high-pressure zone of physical laws violently collides with a low-pressure zone. They are the visible, bleeding manifestations of the laws of physics clashing against each other in the dark. You are looking at a weather map, and on that map, the fundamental constants of nature are nothing more than localized temperatures. Focus on the physical solidity of your own skin. Feel the weight and the tension of the flesh covering your bones. The only reason your body holds together, the only reason the carbon atoms in your DNA do not spontaneously repel each other and fly apart, is because our solar system is currently drifting through a very specific, highly forgiving coordinate on that cosmic gradient. We are floating in a temperate zone. We exist in a narrow, fragile strip of physical climate where the electromagnetic force just happens to be perfectly tuned to allow biology to exist. For centuries, human scientists sat in this tiny, isolated island of space, measured the local temperature, and incorrectly declared it to be the absolute law of the entire ocean. We built our entire understanding of reality on a localized sampling error. We mistook the calm, temporary weather of our local beach for the eternal, unbreakable constitution of the cosmos. But a climate gradient is a dynamic, shifting fluid. The Earth is not stationary. It is not bolted to the floor of the universe. The Milky Way galaxy is drifting through space at roughly 1.3 million miles per hour. We are actively, blindly sailing across this physical gradient. Every single second, our solar system moves deeper into completely uncharted coordinates of the cosmos, dragging your fragile biology along with it. We blindly trust that the cosmic climate zone we are moving into will have the exact same physical rules as the one we are leaving behind. But there is no mathematical guarantee protecting us. None. If the solar system crosses a hidden weather front, a boundary where the fine structure constant shifts by even 0.1%, the electromagnetic bonds holding the oxygen molecules in your room will instantly fail. The water inside your cells will violently cease to be a liquid. Your body will lose the fundamental physical ability to exist as solid matter. You will dissolve into the gradient, erased by a simple change in the weather. The laws of physics are not a constitution. They are a temporary weather forecast. The coordinates are shifting. The temperate zone is running out. If space can curve into forbidden rings of galaxies, and if the very strength of the electromagnetic force changes depending on your coordinates, then you must completely abandon the concept of universal laws. Laws imply a permanent legislator. They imply an immutable decree that applies equally to every single corner of the court. But the cosmos has no court. It has only geography. It has only gradients of raw energy, fields of fluctuating intensity, and vast, shifting pools of cosmic pressure. What we call the laws of physics are merely the atmospheric conditions of the specific pocket of space we currently occupy. We are looking at a grand, unguided, thermodynamic weather system. A sailor spends his entire life inside a tiny, landlocked lagoon. The water is always calm. The breeze is always gentle. The temperature fluctuates by only a few fractions of a degree. For generations, this sailor's ancestors have measured the depth of the lagoon, recorded the speed of the wind, and confidently declared these measurements to be the absolute, eternal constants of the entire world. They build ships designed only for these tranquil, shallow waters. They calibrate their navigation instruments to this specific, predictable pressure. They believe they have mastered the rules of existence. Then, one day, the tide rises, the protective lagoon wall crumbles, and the sailor is violently cast out into the open ocean during a massive hurricane. The instruments spin wildly until they break. The ship is instantly crushed by waves the size of mountains. The rules of the lagoon do not apply to the open ocean. They never did. The lagoon was not a separate universe with its own special laws. It was just an accidental, temporary shelter. It was an anomaly of calm weather. Earth is that lagoon. Our entire solar system is a tiny, fragile raft drifting through a temporary lull in a storm that has been raging for 13.8 billion years. The void does not hate you. It is entirely unaware of your existence. The cosmic hurricane does not possess intent or malice or a grand design to erase humanity. The horror of the universe does not lie in its cruelty. It lies in its absolute, unyielding indifference. The cosmos is a blind, deaf, thermodynamic machine, turning its giant gears according to equations that have no regard for organic matter. Your heart is beating right now. It pumps blood through your veins at a specific pressure. Your lungs expand, drawing in oxygen. Your brain fires electrical impulses across millions of synapses, creating the thoughts, the memories, and the fragile consciousness that you use to define who you are. You look at your body and perceive it as an independent entity, a sovereign temple of life. It is not. Your biology is not independent. It is a subsystem of the local environment. It is a fragile extension of the local cosmic pressure, the exact chemical bonds holding your cell membranes together, the precise electrical resistance of your nervous system, the very viscosity of your blood. These are not internal choices made by your DNA. They are a direct reaction to the local value of the fine structure constant. They are a product of the temperate, forgiving physical climate of this specific sector of space. Your life is a statistical accident of thermodynamics. You are surviving solely because the ambient pressure of physics at this exact coordinate allows your proteins to remain stable. Gravity pulls you down to your bed with a force of 1g because of our position in space. Light travels at a specific speed, allowing your eyes to render the room around you. But these are not universal truths. They are just today's weather report for our galaxy. If the cosmic wind shifts, if our galaxy drifts out of this temperate zone and crosses a front of higher physical pressure, the laws of nature inside your bedroom will instantly change. The universe will not actively attack you. It will simply continue to execute its local equations, and your biology happens to be completely incompatible with those equations. The moment the local value of alpha fluctuates by a fraction of a percent, the mechanical tension holding your molecules together vanishes. The atoms in your body will no longer recognize each other. Your flesh will lose its solidity. Your lungs will try to inhale air that has structurally mutated into an unbreathable plasma. You will be crushed by the sheer weight of a changing physical climate, erased by a simple fluctuation in the ambient atmosphere of the void. You are a fragile, blind primate hiding inside a collapsing shelter, completely at the mercy of currents you cannot see and constants you cannot trust. This is the true horror of the cosmological weather. It is not just that the storm is massive, or that it is unpredictable. It is that you are completely, physically tethered to it. You cannot opt out. You cannot close the door and hide inside your house, because your house,
scenarios where
causes and the electrical impulses in your brain are constructed from the exact same vulnerable material as the storm itself. When the barometric pressure of a regular Earth thunderstorm drops rapidly, you feel it in your joints.
That has been called the
you get a headache. Your biology reacts to the shifting atmosphere of the planet. If the atmospheric pressure of physics itself drops, if the cosmic wind strips away the weak nuclear force, you would not get a headache. Your atomic structure would simply cease to hold meaning. You are walking on a tightrope over an infinite abyss, and the only thing keeping you from falling is a gentle breeze
not
that
the
happens
beginning
to be
of time
blowing
itself,
upward for this
but merely
exact
the moment
fraction
when the
of a
previous
cosmic second. But here is where the human mind begins to fracture. If the reality outside this tiny solar system is a violent, chaotic ocean of clashing physical laws, why does everything seem so perfectly still? Look around your room again. Look at the corners of the ceiling. Look at the solid wood of your door. Look out the window at the sky. It does not look like a storm. It looks like a painting. It is quiet. It is stable. You do not feel the crushing weight of the universe's true climate. You do not see the physical gradients shifting in the dark. Your instinct is to use this silence as a shield. You tell yourself that the scientists must be exaggerating. You think, if the universe is a hurricane, I would feel the rain. I would hear the thunder. The fact that my room is quiet proves that I am safe. That is the ultimate biological delusion. You assume that your eyes and your ears are objective instruments. You assume that your senses were designed to show you the absolute truth of reality. You believe that if a monster is standing in front of you, your eyes will naturally see it. But your eyes are not telescopes. Your brain is not a scientific instrument seeking the objective truth of the cosmos. Your biology is a desperate, blind survivor. Think about the sailor in the lagoon. If a creature evolved its entire existence at the bottom of that quiet, dark lagoon, it would not have eyes designed to see the violent, blinding storms of the surface. It would evolve to be blind to the chaos. Seeing the storm would not help it survive at the bottom. It would only overwhelm its primitive nervous system with useless noise. The silence in your room is not proof that the storm does not exist. It is proof that your body is physically incapable
If we had perfect
of perceiving
information,
it. You are not looking through a clear glass window at the universe. You are locked inside a thick, lead-lined, biological fallout shelter. The walls of this shelter are your own skull. The sensory organs feeding you information about the outside world are strictly filtered. If you could actually see the raw, unfiltered, thermodynamic reality of the space around you, the quantum fluctuations, the shifting gradients of gravity, the true, violent weather of the cosmos, your nervous system would instantly burn out. You would be paralyzed by the sheer, incomprehensible noise of the storm. You would not be able to hunt, to eat, or to reproduce. So, evolution did the only thing it could do to keep you alive. It blinded you. It sealed the heavy doors of the bunker, shut off the external microphones, and painted a fake, quiet mural of a three-dimensional room on the inside of the walls. The peace you feel right now is not the absence of the storm. It is the absolute, terrifying effectiveness of your own biological blindness. You are trapped in the dark, congratulating yourself on how quiet the world is, while the cosmic hurricane silently tears the sky apart just outside your door. You have spent your entire life operating under a fundamental 100 biological assumption. The very last you believe your sensory organs, your eyes, your ears, the nerve endings in your skin are transparent windows. You assume they were evolved to let the outside world in, to show you the absolute, objective truth of the environment you are walking through. If there is a physical object in front of you, you believe your eyes will accurately report its shape, its distance, and its nature. This assumption is why you feel safe when you look around a quiet room. You think that if there were a cosmic storm tearing through the physical constants of your local space, you would simply see it. They are not windows. They are the heavy, lead-lined walls of a biological fallout shelter. Your senses did not evolve to show you the truth of the universe. They evolved to actively hide it from you. To understand why your own body is lying to you, you have to look at the cold, unforgiving mathematics of evolutionary biology. For decades, the standard belief among scientists was that evolution favored truth. The logic seemed sound. An animal that accurately perceives the true threats in its environment is more likely to survive than an animal that hallucinates. Therefore, after millions of years of natural selection, human beings must have developed senses that perfectly reflect the objective reality of the cosmos. That comforting logic was completely obliterated by a cognitive scientist named Donald Hoffman at the University of California in the emptiness of space. Hoffman did not use philosophy to challenge our perception. He used evolutionary game theory. He and his team built rigorous, complex mathematical models simulating hundreds of thousands of evolutionary environments. They wanted to see exactly what happens when different species compete for survival over millions of generations. They created two distinct categories of simulated organisms. The first group was programmed to see the truth. These organisms were designed to perceive the exact, objective reality of their environment. If there was a shift in the local physical pressure, if there was a complex thermodynamic structure, they saw it in all its terrifying, intricate detail. It is a certainty. They perceived the raw, unfiltered physics of the world. The second group was programmed to be entirely blind to the truth. These organisms, labeled fitness only, could not see the actual structure of reality. Instead, their sensory organs were heavily mutated to only perceive crude, simplified symbols that told them how to survive. They did not see the thermodynamic complexity of a water source. They just perceived a biological urge to move toward a specific shape. They were completely disconnected from the objective physical laws governing their environment. Then, the researchers let the simulations run. They pitted the truth organisms against the fitness-only organisms in a fight for survival. They ran the models through every conceivable environmental scenario, tweaking the resources, the predators, and the atmospheric conditions. The result was a massacre. In every single simulation, across hundreds of thousands of trials, the organisms that saw the objective truth of reality went extinct. They did not just lose. They were eradicated with a mathematical certainty of 100%. When you force a biological organism to perceive the actual, staggering complexity of its physical environment, it is instantly paralyzed. The sheer volume of information, the shifting gradients of temperature, the chaotic microscopic collisions, the true, violent nature of the physical forces acting upon them crushes their nervous system. They spend so much biological energy processing the terrifying reality of the storm that they forget to eat. They freeze in the face of the cosmic weather, and they die. The fitness-only organisms survived every single time. They survived because they were completely, blissfully ignorant of the storm. They survived because their sensory organs acted as thick, impenetrable concrete walls, blocking out the lethal noise of the objective universe. Evolution does not care about the truth. It only cares about keeping your heart beating long enough to reproduce. And the mathematics of game theory definitively debated why there is something rather than you. Hoffman's theorem, fitness beats truth, is not a metaphor. It is a biological death sentence for the concept of human objectivity. It proves that natural selection actively bred the ability to perceive reality out of our gene pool. The humans who might have possessed the genetic mutation to see the true, chaotic gradients of the cosmic weather did not survive. They were driven mad by the sensory overload, and their genetic lines were erased. You are the descendant of the blind survivors. Think about what Hoffman's mathematical proof means for the room you are sitting in right now. Look at the objects around you. The walls, the bed, the shadows cast across the floor. You perceive them as solid, objective reality. You believe that if all human life were erased tomorrow, the bed and the walls would still exist in exactly this shape, with exactly these physical properties. They would not. What you are experiencing right now is not the universe, or even a biological mural painted in this on the inside of your skull. We are going to your evolutionary programming has intercepted the terrifying, chaotic storm of the cosmic climate and translated it into a harmless, static image. Imagine a soldier sitting deep underground inside a nuclear fallout shelter. Outside, the atmosphere is a raging inferno of radiation and lethal pressure waves. If the soldier opened the heavy steel door to look at the truth of the environment, he would be instantly incinerated. So, he builds a radiation detector. The detector does not show him the terrifying complexity of the nuclear fire. It does not show him the atomic decay or the true nature of the energy tearing the world apart. It just makes a simple, harmless clicking sound. The click is not the radiation. It is a crude, simplified symbol that tells the soldier to stay away. Your eyes are that clicking box. Your ears are that clicking box. The feeling of the mattress beneath you is that clicking box. They are not capturing the raw thermodynamic reality of the universe. They are capturing the chaotic, localized physical pressure of the cosmos and mechanically downgrading it into a set of safe, manageable symbols. You see color and solidity, because those are the crude biological pacifiers your species needed to find food and avoid falling off a cliff. When you hear the silence in your room, it is not because the universe is quiet. The void is deafening. Stars are detonating in radiation. Massive structures are tearing the fabric of the block universe theory, and gravitational currents are pulling entire galaxy clusters at millions of miles per hour. Your ears were explicitly designed to filter out the roar of the cosmos. They are acoustic blast doors. They only let in the tiny, insignificant frequencies necessary to hear a predator in the brush. When you look at your own hand and see solid flesh, you are looking at a biological lie. Your skin is not solid. It is a porous, violently vibrating mesh of atoms, held together only by the temporary grace of local electromagnetic pressure. Your eyes were explicitly designed to blur out this terrifying reality. They are optical blast doors. They paint a smooth, continuous texture over your skin, so you do not have to watch your own atoms constantly threatening to dissolve into the cosmic gradient. Your biology is actively shielding you from the sheer, crushing weight of existence. Every second of your life is spent locked inside a pitch-black, silent skull. Your brain has never once touched the outside world. It sits in total darkness, relying entirely on the electrical signals fed to it by these heavily mutated, dishonest sensory organs. It takes the chaotic, violent data of the cosmic storm and sculpts it into a comfortable, three-dimensional diorama. You do not see the massive quantum fluctuations. You do not see the electromagnetic bonds straining against the local coordinates of the universe. You do not see the cosmic weather front slowly creeping toward our solar system, threatening to shift the fine structure constant and dissolve your flesh. Because if you saw the storm, you would be paralyzed by the terror. You would stop functioning. Your biology requires you to remain calm so that you can keep breathing. The silence of your room is not a reflection of a peaceful universe. It is the absolute, terrifying effectiveness of your biological blindfold. You are a prisoner of your own survival instincts. You are entirely isolated from the reality that governs your existence. The universe could be tearing itself apart just 1 millimeter outside your sensory range, and your brain would continue to paint a picture of a quiet bedroom, forcing you to remain calm right up until the exact moment the shelter walls finally collapse. There is no window. There is no truth. There is only the bunker. And you can never leave. You are sealed inside a biological bunker, completely blind to the cosmic hurricane raging outside. But even in a bunker, you expect to have instruments. You expect to have a gauge on the wall, a dial that tells you if the atmospheric pressure outside is safe, or if the temperature is rising. You believe that even if your eyes do not show you the full, terrifying truth of the universe, your brain is at least a highly sensitive, loved by accurate instrument capable of measuring reality. It is not. Your brain is a broken piece of machinery. To understand why your perception of reality is a physical impossibility, you have to look at the sheer, crushing weight of the storm. In theoretical physics, there is a fundamental limit to how much complexity can exist in the universe. It is called the Bekenstein Bound. The Bekenstein Bound is a mathematical formula that dictates the absolute maximum amount of physical information, the raw thermodynamic complexity that can be contained within a specific volume of space. In physics, information does not mean words in a book. It means the exact physical state of every single particle, the precise gravitational tension holding them together, the chaotic quantum collisions, and the fluctuating strength of the electromagnetic force. It is the absolute atmospheric pressure of reality. If you take just 1 cubic centimeter of the empty air directly in front of your face, the Bekenstein Bound states that the sheer thermodynamic complexity happening inside that tiny, seemingly quiet space is incomprehensibly dense. It is an ocean of shifting currents and clashing physical laws happening at a microscopic scale. It is a localized storm of physical properties that your biology is forced to wade through every second of your existence. Now, look at the instrument you are using to measure that storm. Your brain operates on a strict, unyielding biological budget. It consumes roughly 20 watts of electricity. That is not an analogy. That is the literal, physical limit of the metabolic energy flowing through your skull. 20 watts is less power than a dim, cheap light bulb inside a refrigerator. Every memory you have ever formed, every complex emotion you feel, your entire perception of time, and your vivid visual construction of the room you are sitting in, all of it is fueled by a tiny, flickering biological ember. We assume this is where the math becomes a death sentence for your sanity. You have a 20-watt piece of biological meat trying to measure the infinite, crushing thermodynamic pressure of the Bekenstein Bound. The cosmic weather system outside your skull is infinitely heavy. The machine inside your skull is exceptionally weak. What happens when you use a weak instrument to measure an impossible pressure? Take a cheap, fragile glass barometer designed only to measure the mild weather of a calm spring afternoon. Now, imagine taking that fragile instrument and dropping it straight into the crushing, lightless depths of the Mariana Trench. The needle would not just give you an inaccurate reading. Destroys it. The sheer, overwhelming pressure of the ocean would instantly snap the internal mechanism. The physical weight of the environment would crush the gears, permanently pinning the needle in place. When you pull that barometer back to the surface, the needle will be stuck, pointing exactly at normal. It will point at normal forever, not because the weather is calm, but because the machine is violently broken. Your brain is that broken barometer. You look around your bedroom, and you perceive a calm, stable environment. You feel a sense of normalcy. The gravity feels consistent. The air feels still. The physical scream of a dying monster holding your furniture together seem peaceful. You believe this feeling of normalcy everywhere is an accurate measurement of the universe. It is a mechanical failure. The 20-watt engine in your skull simply does not have the metabolic power to measure the true, chaotic gradient of the cosmological weather. If your brain actually tried to calculate the shifting electromagnetic tensions, the localized anomalies, and the terrifying currents of the cosmic storm hitting your coordinates right now, the biological circuitry would instantly melt down. The energy required to process that level of physical truth would boil the water. The paradox arises when you measure it repeatedly. Your biology made a desperate mechanical compromise. It snapped the needle off. It completely shut down its ability to measure the true physical pressure of the cosmos, permanently locking your perception into a static, unchanging state of normal. The peace you feel in your room is not a reflection of reality. It is the numb, paralyzed output of a biological gauge that was crushed by the weight of existence millions of years ago. If your brain is physically incapable of measuring the actual thermodynamic pressure of the universe, what exactly is it doing with those 20 watts of electricity? It is desperately maintaining a localized, artificial climate inside your skull. It takes immense, staggering metabolic energy to process the violent currents of a cosmic storm. It takes almost zero energy to simply ignore them. Your brain consumes roughly 20% of the oxygen you inhale, just to keep this fake, tranquil environment stable. If it actually tried to measure the shifting gradients of the physical constants around you, your heart would have to pump blood with such violent force that it would explode in your chest. The biological machinery would physically self-destruct, and something else is happening in the Andromeda Galaxy. Focus on the empty air between your face and the closest wall. You look at it, and you see nothing. You feel nothing. You assume it is a quiet, static emptiness. But the Bekenstein Bound proves that this space is violently alive, crushed under the thermodynamic weight of shifting physical gradients, invisible matter, and quantum turbulence. Your brain simply refuses to process it. It perceives the space as empty, because emptiness is biologically cheap. It is a metabolic cost-saving measure. It is a desperate rationing of energy, designed to prevent your 20-watt engine winning the lottery a trillion times in a row. You are not experiencing a stable reality. You are experiencing a state of extreme biological rationing. Your nervous system is deliberately starving your senses, blinding you to the cosmological weather, just to keep your internal organs functioning. And this brings us to the ultimate, fatal consequence of the broken barometer. When the physical laws of the universe actually do change, when our solar system drifts into a new cosmic weather front, where the fine structure constant fluctuates, your brain will not be able to warn you. A broken gauge cannot alert you to a rising tide. If a massive, invisible drop in atmospheric pressure sweeps across the Milky Way, altering the fundamental electromagnetic tension holding your body together, your biological instruments will not register the anomaly. They are physically incapable of moving off the normal mark. A blind, deaf animal grazes in a valley, entirely unaware that a massive flood is rushing down the mountain. The animal does not feel the barometric drop. It does not hear the roar of the water. It continues to chew the grass, feeling perfectly safe, right up until the exact microsecond the water crushes its spine. You are that animal. Your eyes will continue to report a solid, quiet room. Your skin will continue to feel a stable, comfortable temperature. Your brain will stubbornly enforce the feeling of absolute safety, actively suppressing any data that contradicts the illusion of the bunker. You will not see the storm coming. You will not feel the laws of chemistry beginning to fray. Your 20-watt engine will simply continue to generate the feeling of a quiet, safe shelter, blindly maintaining the illusion of a calm lagoon while the ocean crashes down from above. You will feel perfectly fine, right up until the moment your atoms dissolve into the storm. If you are sealed inside a biological bunker, and your internal barometer is permanently broken just to keep you calm, there is one fatal flaw in the survival system: movement. When you sit perfectly still, it is relatively easy for your brain to maintain the illusion of a quiet room. But when you move, you are actively shifting your physical coordinates through the storm. You are forcing your fragile biological senses to plow through the crushing thermodynamic pressure of the space around you. And your nervous system knows that if it leaves the sensory blast doors open during that rapid movement, the sheer, violent friction of the cosmic weather will tear your sanity apart. So, your biology found a ruthless solution. It periodically shuts you off. You can prove this mechanical failure right now. Keep your head perfectly still. Pick a spot on the far left edge of your vision, perhaps the corner of the ceiling or the edge of your bed. Now, pick a spot on the far right. I want you to dart your eyes from the left spot to the right spot as fast as you physically can. Do it. Think about what you just experienced. You saw the left side of the room, then you saw the right side of the room. But what did you see in the middle? If your eyes were objective optical instruments, like a camera panning across a landscape, imagine you should have seen a chaotic, slowly turning into smeared blur of colors fading away and shapes as your line of sight rapidly swept across the physical space. You should have perceived the terrifying velocity of the movement, but you did not see a blur. You saw nothing in between. The transition was instant. This is not a psychological trick. It is a severe biological defect known as saccadic masking. When your eyes dart from one point to another, the visual data rushing into your retinas is too chaotic, too dense, and too raw for your nervous system to process without burning out its metabolic budget. The sheer thermodynamic noise of shifting your coordinates through the space of the room threatens to overwhelm the bunker. So, the brain executes an extreme lockdown protocol. For the entire duration of that eye movement, roughly 1/10 of a second, your brain physically severs the connection to your optic nerve. It deliberately blinds you. You spend roughly 10% of your waking life completely, entirely blind, but you never notice the darkness, because your brain actively lies to you to cover up the lockdown. It takes the image of the final destination, stretches it backward in time, and plasters it over the gap in your perception. It smooths over the violent crack in reality with a thick layer of biological cement, ensuring you never realize that the shelter doors were just slammed shut. Every time you move your eyes, you are threatening to tear the safe, quiet wrapper of your local climate and expose the roaring storm underneath. And every time, your brain paralyzes your vision to protect you from seeing it. But saccadic masking is only the first layer of the deception. The blinding of your eyes reveals a much deeper, far more terrifying chronicle trap. If your brain has the ability to stop time, edit the visual data, and plaster a fake image over your blindness, it means you are not experiencing reality as it happens. You cannot edit a live broadcast. You can only edit a delay. In the early 2000s, a neuroscientist named David Eagleman conducted extensive experiments on the human perception of time. By measuring the exact electrical pathways from the sensory organs to the visual cortex, researchers established a grim, undeniable physiological timeline. When light hits your retina, when a sound wave strikes your eardrum, or when the atmospheric pressure of the room presses against your skin, that physical event happens in the present. But it takes time for your weak biological engine to process that data. It takes time for the brain to inspect the raw physics, scrub out the horrifying thermodynamic chaos, filter out the cosmic noise, and paint a calm, still picture for you to safely consume. The exact measurement of that processing delay is 80 milliseconds. You are entirely trapped behind an 80 millisecond quarantine wall. You have never once in your entire life experienced the present moment. The now does not belong to you. By the time you feel the mattress beneath you, by the time you hear the quiet hum of the room, that physical event is already dead and gone. It happened 80 milliseconds ago in the brutal, objective universe. Your consciousness is permanently locked in the past. You are living inside a delayed, heavily censored echo of reality. Think about what happens inside that 80 millisecond quarantine zone. It is a strict biological censorship protocol. The objective universe strikes your body with terrifying, unfiltered force, shifting electromagnetic tensions, localized cosmic pressure, the violent friction of matter against matter. Your nervous system intercepts this brutal collision and instantly locks the heavy doors of the bunker. Inside the dark, your 20-watt engine frantically works to strip away the thermodynamic chaos. It removes the physical horror. It stitches together a quiet, fabricated diorama of a safe room and then feeds it to your consciousness 80 milliseconds after the storm has already moved on. Reach out and touch your own face. The sensation of warmth, the physical resistance of flesh against flesh, feels absolute and immediate. It is a lie. The actual physical interaction between the atoms of your fingertips and the atoms of your cheek happened in the unforgiving, objective universe. By the time the physical pressure is converted into a signal, travels up the length of your arm, gets scrubbed by the bunker's defensive filters, and is finally presented to you, the physical event is dead. You are literally touching a ghost of yourself. When you hold an object, or when you feel the ground beneath your feet, you are not touching reality. You are feeling a historical record of a touch that has already ended in the real world. You are trapped in the solitary confinement resource of your own biology, feeling nothing but the delayed echoes of a universe you can never actually reach. This isolation becomes horrifying when you realize the environment outside the bunker is fundamentally unsynchronized. Light waves bouncing off the walls hit your eyes almost instantly. Sound waves from the street take much longer to reach your eardrums. The physical pressure of the floor against your feet takes the longest amount of time to climb up your spinal cord. In the raw, objective weather of the cosmos, these physical impacts are fractured, disjointed, and chaotic. But your brain cannot allow you to experience that chaos. If you felt the disjointed impact of the storm, you would be paralyzed by the confusion. So, the bunker waits. It holds the light. It holds the sound. It sits in total darkness, hoarding the sensory data, waiting for the slowest physical signal to finally arrive. Only then does it forcibly glue the shattered pieces together, plastering over the cracks with biological cement and presenting it to you as a single, flawless moment of now. Your perception of the present is a biological forgery. You have never experienced the universe as it actually is. You only experience the heavily censored summary report that your survival instincts deem safe enough for you to consume. If your consciousness is constantly living in the past, consuming a delayed summary constructed by a frightened biological engine, you must confront the ultimate consequence. What happens when the cosmic weather actually changes? What happens when a rogue wave of physical laws, a massive gradient shift in the fine structure constant, finally reaches the coordinates of our solar system? The storm will hit your body first. The destruction of your local environment will happen in the absolute, objective present. But you will not be there to witness it. Your consciousness will still be trapped 80 milliseconds in the past, calmly looking at a fabricated image of a quiet room, feeling perfectly safe. You are not the captain of the ship. You are not navigating the storm. You are a blind passenger, locked deep inside the pitch-black cargo hold, staring at a painted mural of a clear blue sky, completely unaware that the hull has already been crushed by the ocean. The storm is already inside the room. You just have not been informed yet. You feel the steady, rhythmic expansion of your chest as you breathe. You feel the physical weight of your bones and the solid architecture of your muscles against the bed. You naturally assume that your biology is a private, independent fortress. You believe that as long as you consume food, drink water, and inhale oxygen, your flesh will inherently maintain its shape. You look at your own hand and consider its existence to be a permanent, indisputable fact of nature. It is not. Your body is a temporary, highly unstable chemical reaction, strictly permitted by the local weather. We must completely strip away the comforting illusion of biological sovereignty. You are not made of life. You are made of dead, indifferent matter. You are a collection of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms drifting through the void. These atoms do not possess a desire to form a human being. They do not want to be a hand, or a heart, or a complex nervous system. They are dead fragments of stardust. They are simply forced to stick together because the exact, localized atmospheric pressure of the physical laws in this specific sector of space violently demands it. This is the terrifying reality of localized chemistry. The invisible bonds preventing the DNA strands in your cells from tearing themselves apart are not governed by some sacred biological intent. They are governed by the electromagnetic force and the strong nuclear force. They are governed by the exact temporary temperature of the physical laws currently surrounding the Earth. In our current temperate zone of the cosmos, these thermodynamic forces are locked in a perfectly balanced, forgiving standoff. The pressure is just right. It forces carbon atoms to link together into long, elegant chains. It allows water to exist as a soothing liquid rather than a corrosive acid or a freezing solid. Your entire existence is nothing more than a localized precipitation. You are a fragile kind of chemical moss, blooming only because the atmospheric humidity of the cosmic storm happens to be perfectly tuned at this exact geographic coordinate. But as the massive, unseen currents of the universe drag our solar system deeper into uncharted territory at 2 million miles per hour, that temperate zone is running out. Biologists often marvel at the extreme fragility of human life. They warn that a sudden drop in atmospheric oxygen, a slight increase in planetary temperature, or a microscopic virus can easily erase us. But that is a microscopic, almost naive view of our vulnerability. The true threat is not biological. It is fundamentally thermodynamic. You are hurtling toward a climate front where the physical pressure of the void changes. And the horrifying truth about a shifting physical constant is that it does not tear you apart from the outside in. It does not hit you like a wall of fire, a wave of water, or a blast of cosmic radiation. It erases you from the inside out. Focus on the saliva in your mouth right now. Feel the moisture. That is H2O, two hydrogen atoms desperately clinging to a single oxygen atom. If the invisible undertow dragging our galaxy pulls us across a cosmic weather front where the local electromagnetic tension drops by even a fraction of a percent, the chemistry of your body instantly becomes illegal. The water molecules, making up 70% of your mass, will violently reject their own structure. The hydrogen will separate from the oxygen. Your blood will instantly cease to be a liquid, boiling into a toxic, expanding vapor without any actual change in heat. The complex, folded proteins in your brain that store your memories, your childhood, and your personality will unfold and snap like brittle dry rot. The carbon backbone of your DNA will shatter under the new local pressure. And the horror goes deeper into your own anatomy. Your body contains trace amounts of radioactive isotopes, like potassium, 40, silently decaying in your bones and muscles. In this calm local climate, the weak nuclear force keeps that decay slow and harmless. It is a slow leak in a pressurized pipe. But if the cosmic weather front causes a spike in the weak nuclear force, that slow leak becomes an explosive rupture. The atoms inside your own skeleton will suddenly accelerate their decay, flooding your internal organs with a lethal dose of radiation from the inside out. Your own bones will become the weapon that executes you. You will not suffocate, you will not bleed. Your physical matter will simply be evicted from reality. It will be instantly rewritten into a chaotic, formless soup of disconnected particles, because the new local weather no longer permits the existence of complex chemistry. Your consciousness, the very voice in your head listening to these words, is not a shield against this. You like to believe that your mind is a separate, untouchable entity, a sovereign pilot navigating the meat of your body. But every single thought you have right now is nothing more than a fragile exchange of sodium and potassium ions across the membranes of your brain cells. That electrical exchange is strictly dictated by the fine structure constant. If the cosmic weather changes, your thoughts do not just stop. They physically cannot exist. The chemical formula required to render your personality simply becomes mathematically impossible to balance. We are conditioned to treat death as a biological failure. We worry about heart attacks, diseases, or old age. We view mortality as a breakdown of the internal machinery. But those are just localized biological problems. The ultimate death is thermodynamic eviction. It is the universe simply changing the atmospheric pressure of reality, making the specific chemical reaction known as humanity illegal. Think of a thin, fragile layer of damp moss clinging to the side of a barren rock in the middle of a massive, scorching desert. For a brief few hours, a random atmospheric anomaly brought a highly localized pocket of humidity and shade to that specific side of the rock. The moss bloomed. If the moss had consciousness, it would look at its own green leaves, feel the moisture in its cells, and arrogantly declare that it has conquered the rock. It would believe that its biology is a permanent, indestructible feature of the world. It is completely unaware that the desert wind is already shifting. When the dry, crushing air of the broader environment inevitably returns, the moss does not die of a disease. It does not fight a predator. It simply dries up and blows away, erased by a shift in the weather. It ceases to be moss, returning to the dead, indifferent dust of the desert. Humanity is that moss. The Earth is that rock. The temperate zone of physical constants we are currently floating through is that temporary, accidental pocket of cosmic humidity. We have built entire civilizations, composed symphonies, waged wars, and stared up at the sky, all based on the blind, arrogant assumption that this local pocket of cosmic weather will last forever. We convinced ourselves that the universe was designed to accommodate our chemistry, but we are not sitting still in the shade. The dark flow is actively dragging the rock across the desert floor at 2 million miles per hour. We are being pulled out of the humidity and into the dry, crushing pressure of the unknown void. Your biological bunker cannot save you from this. The heavy, lead-lined doors of your sensory deprivation chamber, the biological engine frantically trying to keep you calm, the millions of years of evolutionary blindness, none of it matters when the storm dictates the rules of chemistry itself. Evolution is a defense mechanism against biological predators and starvation. It is absolutely powerless against a shift in the fundamental constants of nature. You cannot adapt to a universe that no longer permits the electromagnetic bonds of carbon. You cannot evolve to survive an environment where water refuses to be a liquid. Look down at your chest, rising and falling. It feels like life. It feels like a permanent, inherent right. But it is just a temporary permission slip granted by a blind, deaf, thermodynamic machine. The exact tension holding your lungs together is a geographical anomaly. You are not a permanent resident of this universe. You are not an observer standing safely outside the experiment. You are a highly specific, localized precipitation. You are a chemical reaction that is only allowed to burn because the wind hasn't blown it out yet. Every second you spend locked inside your quiet room, every time your brain lies to you to cover up the blindness of your eyes, the Milky Way is plunging 5,000 miles deeper into the dark. The cosmic weather front is approaching. The physical climate that allows your flesh to exist is a finite resource, and it is actively running out. The local climate is shifting, and your physical matter has no choice but to obey. Surrounded by four walls and the steady, rhythmic hum of silence, the biological instinct is to fight back. Human biology is hardwired for resistance. Faced with a predator, you run. Faced with a storm, you build a roof. You desperately want to believe that there is a solution to this, a technological breakthrough, a philosophical shift, or some hidden resilience in the human spirit that can overcome the terrifying geography of the void. There is none. You cannot engineer your way out of thermodynamics. You cannot build a wall to keep out the laws of physics. Every monument humanity has ever constructed, every massive stone of the pyramids, every steel beam of our tallest skyscrapers, and every satellite we have blindly hurled into the dark. All of it is nothing more than a temporary arrangement of dust, strictly permitted by the localized weather of our cosmic coordinates. We are building castles out of sand on the floor of an elevator that is in perpetual freefall. We measure our history in centuries and millennia, proudly documenting the rise and fall of empires. We believe our timeline is vast and significant, but on the scale of the cosmic hurricane, the entire lifespan of human civilization, from the discovery of fire to the reading of these words, is not even a single drop of rain. It is a microscopic, fleeting, thermodynamic anomaly. It is a spark of static electricity generated by the violent friction of the dark flow dragging our galaxy through the void. You are a temporary chemical precipitation, and your biology is designed to be completely oblivious to the wind that will eventually blow you away. Think about the sheer, suffocating tragedy of your own intelligence. Evolution built your 20-watt brain to be a survival engine, a heavily armored fallout shelter designed to filter out the terrifying reality of the universe. It blinded your eyes. It delayed your perception by 80 milliseconds. It broke your internal barometer and permanently locked the needle at normal to keep you from going mad. And yet, despite all of those heavy, lead-lined blast doors, the human mind accidentally stumbled upon the mathematics of its own execution. We built telescopes just powerful enough to see the impossible, violent geometry of the Big Ring and the giant arc. We measured the light of ancient quasars just precisely enough to realize that the fine structure constant is a shifting weather front. We mapped the cosmic map just far enough to watch 1,400 galaxy clusters being dragged into the unobservable dark. Your biology tried desperately to keep you safe in the dark, but your math betrayed you. You are now a prisoner who has found the architectural blueprints of the prison, only to realize that the prison is currently being dragged over the edge of a bottomless waterfall. The blueprints cannot help you steer. They cannot help you stop the current. They only serve to strip away the comforting illusion of the quiet room, leaving you with the absolute, paralyzing knowledge of the fall. This is the final, inescapable trap of human awareness. You possess just enough metabolic energy to understand your own absolute powerlessness, but not enough to change it. You cannot alter the speed of the Milky Way. You cannot negotiate with the dipole repeller. You cannot ask the localized electromagnetic tension holding your carbon atoms together to hold on just a little bit longer when the cosmic weather front finally hits. The universe is a blind, deaf machine, and it does not hear the frantic clicking of your biological gauge. There is no grand cosmic battle between life and death. The void is not coming to conquer you. It is simply shifting its atmospheric pressure, and your biology happens to be mathematically incompatible with the new forecast. So, what do you do with this paralyzing reality? What do you do when the illusion of biological sovereignty is entirely shattered and you realize you are just a fragile layer of chemical moss waiting for the wind to change. You do nothing. Panic is a localized biological response. It is a sudden spike in adrenaline, a surge of oxygen to the muscles, heavily engineered by millions of years of evolution to help you outrun a physical predator or fight a competing tribe. It is a tool designed for the shallow waters of the lagoon. But you cannot outrun a shifting physical constant. You cannot fight the thermodynamic gradient of the cosmos. When the threat is not a biological organism, but the fundamental atmospheric pressure of reality itself, the panic is just a tragic waste of your metabolic budget. There is a strange, paralyzing peace in absolute defeat. When the biological gauge is crushed by the weight of the Mariana Trench, the needle stops twitching. It snaps. And in that mechanical failure, the frantic struggle for survival simply ceases to exist. The heavy, lead-lined doors of your biological fallout shelter are sealed shut. They have been sealed since the moment you were born. Your nervous system is blindly hoarding the sensory data, frantically scrubbing away the terrifying, chaotic noise of the cosmic weather, and feeding you a heavily censored 80-millisecond delayed summary of a quiet world. Do not try to break the doors down. Do not try to look at the storm. Your biology is physically incapable of processing the truth, and the truth is mathematically guaranteed to destroy you. Instead, look at the painting on the inside wall of your bunker. Look at the shadows casting across the floor. Listen to the steady, ignorant rhythm of your own heartbeat. Feel the artificial solidity of the mattress beneath you. It is a forgery. It is a desperate, frantic lie constructed by a terrified piece of meat trapped in the dark. But it is the only reality your biology is allowed to consume. You are a blind passenger trapped in the lightless cargo hold of a ship that is being violently dragged at 2 million miles per hour into an unobservable void. The dipole repeller is crushing against the hull. The dark flow is hauling you toward a weather front where the laws of chemistry will simply cease to authorize your existence. The elevator is in perpetual freefall. But inside the elevator, the gravity feels perfectly normal. So you continue to build your sandcastles. You wake up, you go to work, you form attachments, you assign deep, profound meaning to your daily struggles, completely ignoring the sheer, incomprehensible velocity of the rock you are bolted to. You arrange the grains of sand with meticulous care, pretending that the architecture of your life is permanent, while the invisible undertow of the universe dictates the exact moment your localized chemistry will be forcibly evicted from reality. Evolution did not give you the tools to survive the universe. It only gave you the tools to ignore it. There is no hidden strength in the human spirit that can negotiate with the fine structure constant. There is only the localized weather and the temporary permission it grants you to breathe. The massive, churning gears of thermodynamics will simply continue to turn, shifting the gradients of the void, sweeping across the coordinates of our solar system with the cold inevitability of a rising tide. When that tide finally reaches you, there will be no pain. There will be no realization. The destruction of your local environment will happen in the absolute present, but you will not be there to witness it. You will simply be sitting in your quiet room, perfectly safe, looking at a beautiful biological mural of a still world. The storm is already tearing the void apart. The current is pulling the rock into the dark, and you are utterly, completely silent